On Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat working in his office. It was snowing and very cold outside.
Suddenly, Fred, Scrooge's nephew, appeared at the door. "A Merry Christmas, Uncle," Fred said. "Bah," said Scrooge. "Humbug."
Fred invited his uncle for dinner on Christmas Day, but Scrooge said no and sent him away.
Before the door could fully close, a man and a woman came in. They were collecting money for abandoned animals at the local rehoming centre.
They asked Scrooge if he would consider donating, but Scrooge refused.
Toward the end of the day, Scrooge resentfully dismissed his one underpaid employee, Bob Cratchit, telling him to make sure he was extra early into work after Boxing Day. When it was late, Scrooge trudged towards home through the deepening snow.
He hadn't gone far when he heard a noise, a faint meow.
He looked down and saw a cat. She was small, thin, and obviously homeless. Unaffected, Scrooge moved the animal aside and continued on his way.
Scrooge lived all alone in a tall townhouse, a short walk from his office. Inside, he went straight to bed and dozed off quickly, only to wake at a noise.
Scrooge stared at his bedroom door and the dog-like shape coming through it. It couldn't be. Could it?
"What are you?" said Scrooge. "In life, I was your closest friend, Marley."
"I now represent all pets who need their fate changed," said the vision. "I'm here to warn you. 3 spirits will come to you.
Expect the first to come tomorrow at 1 a.m. Marley's ghost disappeared and the night became quiet again.
Scrooge whispered to himself, "I'm imagining things." And then he fell back asleep.
When Scrooge awoke, it was still night. He thought about Marley's ghost and tried to ignore the pang of regret at abandoning his faithful pet all those years ago.
He looked at the clock and it was 1 a.m. A bell rang and light flashed up in the room. Scrooge found himself face to face with a rabbit, but with the long white fur which glowed.
"I am the ghost of Christmas past. Come with me." The ghost took Scrooge back in time to a place where he was a child. It was Christmas Day. The boy Scrooge was alone in an undecorated room.
There were no gifts, no pets, no love.
The spirit then took Scrooge to an office where Scrooge was in his early 20s. A Christmas party was taking place. People exchanged gifts. There was food, music and dancing.
At young Scrooge's feet sat Marley, his beloved dog. Then the spirit took Scrooge to yet another vision. They glided past an animal rehoming centre, where Marley sat dejected in a corner.
2 volunteers were talking. "That poor dog," one said. "We found him abandoned on the street last Christmas." "Spirit," said old Scrooge, filled with regret, "show me no more. Take me home."
He struggled with the ghost until he realized it had disappeared, and he was in his own bed. Exhausted, he fell into a deep sleep.
Scrooge awoke to a second bell. He sat up in his bed waiting for the next ghost to come. There it was, the ghost of Christmas present. Scrooge recognised it as a mouse. On its head, a holly wreath.
The ghost took Scrooge to his employee Bob Cratchit's house, a small flat in the dodgy side of town. In the kitchen, Mrs. Cratchit and the children were preparing Christmas dinner. The door opened. Bob had returned from his weekly visit to the local animal rehoming centre with a small elderly dog in his arms.
"Timmy, what is he doing here?" Mrs. Cratchit exclaimed. "I just couldn't leave him alone at the centre after visiting him every week. Not on Christmas Day," said Bob. "Oh, Bob," said his wife, stroking the dog's ears. "You know we can't afford a pet." "I know," said Bob, "but I thought we could give him a loving Christmas and foster him for the festive period instead."
The children made Timmy a bed on the floor with a blanket, and when Christmas dinners was ready, Bob raised a toast a Merry Christmas to us all.
Spirit, said Scrooge, tell me what will happen to Timmy.
I see an empty space at the rehoming centre. Sadly, after many years alone, he passed away, replied the ghost. Fate can sometimes be unkind to pets. Without support, Timmy and many like him will not find loving homes.
The clock rang again. The ghost of Christmas present disappeared, and Scrooge saw the third ghost coming towards him.
It was a black horse, tall and covered entirely by a mane. Only the eyes and hooves, all burning brightly white, were properly visible. "Are you the ghost of Christmas yet to come?" asked Scrooge, but the ghost did not make a sound.
Again, Scrooge found himself at his office. However, this time it was boarded up with graffiti over the door. There was no sign of the homeless cat. Then they were at Bob Cratchit's flat. Bob was there, but unfortunately, Timmy wasn't.
The ghost moved on and took Scrooge to a churchyard. There, among the graves, was a plain, lonely plaque engraved with his name. He had died alone and unhappy, with no pets, friends, or family to care.
"Horse, stop!" Scrooge cried. "I've changed. I'll not ignore the lessons you three spirits have taught me. Oh, tell me that I may change my fate and the fate of those around me."
Full of fear, Scrooge reached out to the spirit, but it shrunk and faded. And finally, Scrooge realised he was holding on to a bedpost.
The bedpost he was holding was his. He ran to the bedroom window, opened it, and put out his head. "Hello there! What's today?" cried Scrooge, calling down to a boy walking his dog below.
"Today," replied the boy, "it's Christmas Day." "It's Christmas Day," said Scrooge to himself. "I haven't missed it."
He grabbed his coat and a tin of cat food and ran to the alley by his office. There she was, the cat from the night before.
He fell to his knees in the cold snow and stroked her, fed her, and promised he would return. Then he went to his nephew's house for Christmas. Of course, Fred let him in with a very warm welcome.
Scrooge was early at the office the next working day, hoping to catch Bob Cratchit out. He was in luck, for Bob was a full 18 minutes late.
"Hello," growled Scrooge in his usual way. "What time to call this? I am not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer."
Therefore, he continued, jumping up, therefore I'm going to raise your salary. A Merry Christmas, Bob.
Bob Cratchit was shocked. He didn't believe it first, but soon, like everyone, he came to understand that Scrooge was changed.
Scrooge took in the little homeless cat, and they became inseparable. She even followed him to work each day, curling up at his feet under his desk.
He became as good a person and friend to all pets as anyone could hope to know, and lived a long and happy life.